Good morning everyone. My name is Uma. I am from CSBS department. Today I am going to discuss about the topic the operating system functions. So here is operating system performs the following functions. What are the functions of operating systems? So what are the actions, what are the actions taken by the computer, and what are the functions we are going to do with the operating system? First of all, the first thing, that is booting. We know that after switch on the computer, we are loading some default coding into the computer. That is a booting, that is the starting of the computer operating system. Everything will be loaded automatically. So the basic commands, the basic instructions, so a minimum allocations all are done whenever we switch on the computer. That is the booting process. Booting is the process of starting the computer operating system, and after that booting, we know that the system is ready to work, and it checks the computer and makes it ready for the work. That is the booting. Initially when we switch on the computer, this process is happening. That is first one is booting. And what is the second thing? That is memory management. So very important, one of the core component, one of the core function of the operating system is memory management. The memory, we cannot do anything without managing the memory with the operating system. Why? Because for each single task also we need to allocate some memory to each and every user, and different programs and data execute in memory at once. Why? Because we are using operating systems in a multitasking and multi-programming point of view. So we are not executing a single program, and we are not executing a single task. Why? Because multiple tasks are done at a time, multiple programs are executing at a time. So different aspects and different programs we are going to execute. So that memory management is very important. And if there is no operating system, the programs will mix with each other. Why? Because we are executing multiple. So by that condition, if we are executing multiple, they mix with each other. That leads to inappropriate results, and the system will not work properly. Why? Because the programs are mixed. For example, in the first case, I am going to execute .c file, and in another case, I am going to execute Java file. So if that memory management is not in the case of proper way, immediately the programs will merge. So that leads to inappropriate results. So this is the very important function done by the operating system, that is memory management. And the third one, coming to loading and execution. So before executing, we know that a program is loaded into the memory first. Why? Because initially that is in the hard disk. That is initially in the hard disk, and a program is loaded in the memory before it can be executed. From that hard disk to it will be residing in the main memory only, CPU will execute it. Okay, already we seen that in the last slide. So a program is loaded in the memory, it can be executed by the CPU. Now operating system provides the facility to load the programs in the memory easily. So operating system here makes a major role while transferring the programs from the secondary storage, that is from the hard disks to the main memory. This function is also important, loading and execution. Only CPU execute the programs which are in the main memory only, not in the hard disk. The CPU cannot access the secondary storages directly. It only knows the main memory. Now data security, it is very important. We know that we need to provide some security to each and every data. So securely, operating system protects the data from the illegal uses, modifications or deletions, for keeping some passwords and some privacy conditions. And after that, disk management is also there. So disk space, how much space is required for each and every process while executing, and storing the files and doing some operations on that, insertion operations, deletion operations, truncating operations. So we can do anything with the disk management with file allocations, and at the same time folders, directories, everything. These functions are done by the operating system. And after that, process management. Why? Because in the multitasking and at the same time multi-programming, we concurrently running multiple processes at a time. From process P1 to process Pn, we are running multiple processes. So CPU can perform one task at a time. One process should execute at a time. So we are not allowing two or more processes executing at a time. If there are many tasks, number of processes or wants to execute at a time, operating system it decides which task should get the CPU. So for this process management only, we have the second chapter, second unit, that is scheduling. So multiple processes are there, so they wants to execute at a time. Now the CPU will decide which process get the CPU execution. So that is the reason we have the second unit, that is CPU scheduling algorithms we are taking here for efficient usage of process management. And after that, device controlling. Why? Because we have so many hardware devices. So operating system obviously will have the control of all the devices attached to the computer. And here I am attaching keyboard and I am attaching CPU, and the printer is there, and some kind of different hardware components I'm attaching. So that operating system will have all the control of these hardware devices. So every device controlling is under operating system, and these are accessed by a small softwares. Those are called device drivers. So if that keyboard wants to access with the keyboard, we need to install a small softwares with that. So these are very important functions by the operating system performing. Operating system will do these kind of functions now. And after that, the last one, that is providing interface. This is very important. The user interface, it is used in the order user interface, acts within a computer mutually. Why? Because the action is very important. If the user wants to do something with the computer, immediately we need to provide some interface with the user, at the same time the hardware components. That is the main task done by the operating system, right? Now, the user interface controls how you input data and instructions and how information is displayed on the screen. Everything, that means giving input and getting output, everything will be in the user interface. The operating system offers two types of interfaces with the user. We know that at the top we have the user, and in between that user we have application softwares. Those are designed for the specific purpose, and in between that, so here is the structure actually we have. So here is the structure. The structure is operating system in the bottom, and after that, here we have hardware. In the bottom we have hardware. So after that hardware we have operating system. So this is the interface between. And after that, from that operating system specifically, we have application softwares designed for the specific purpose, and in the top one only user we have, right? So this is the basic structure of operating system. So here, from the hardware to the user, we need to provide an interface. So that user interface will be divided into two types. One is graphical user interface, GUI, graphical user interfaces. So it interacts with a visual environment. That means some icons we are going to provide. It uses windows, menus and graphical objects, so that by using this graphical line interfaces, and it issues some kind of commands, so easily we are going to access the computer. GUI or graphical line interfaces, somewhat it calls. Second one, command line interfaces. These command line interfaces communicate with the computer by typing commands. In this, we are not using any kind of icons, any windows and any graphical objects. No, only with the commands we are using this command line interface. The perfect example of command line interface operating system is Unix, or some cases Linux is also useful. Okay, so graphical line interface is a simple one to interact with the computer, and with the second one, that is command line interface. Only by using command line interface we are having some typing commands. Some commands we need to provide some commands, then only we access that operating systems. So these two are providing interfaces. This function is also done by the operating system, both the graphical line interface, at the same time command line interface. Now coming to what type of service is provided by the operating system. See this diagram. In this diagram only we have everything about the operating system. So what kind of services we are going to use with that operating system, and what is the entire structure of operating system, everything is there in this single diagram. So here from the bottom we have to follow from this bottom line. Here we know that hardware, initially we are at hardware. So in between this hardware and the user, here is the user. In between hardware and the user, there is an operating system. There is an operating system. Here is the operating system. And these are the services provided by the operating system. In the entire view, in between the view, we are using operating system and some services. And coming to this aspect, so these are some services provided by the operating system. We know that this is the first goal of operating system, program execution. Second one, IO operations, input-output operations, file systems and file management. That is the one service provided by the operating system. Second one, communication. Why? Because we have multiple processes. We need to provide a good communication between them. And resource allocation. Why? Because we have hardware components. So we need to allocate the hardware components in an effective way. And accounting. So in what areas we are going to follow up these services by accounting. And after that, error detection. If we get any kind of errors and any syntactical mistakes, any technical errors, everything will be done by the operating system only. This is one service, that is error detection. And after that, protection and security. Obviously, operating system will give the protection and security. These services are provided by the operating system. And here there is another term. See this term, that is a system call. System call. If we want to access, if we want to take some services from the operating system, system calls are very, very important. These system calls are the requests. So user sends a request through system call. Now only by using system calls only, the system call will have some kind of commands, some kind of requests, and the system call will send the request to the operating system. That means if user wants to access the IO operations, so that the user will send the request through system call. Make sure this is very, very important. Why? Because in our syllabus we have system calls topic is also there. That means if user wants to access any service from the operating system, the user sends that request. So I want this IO operations. I want to do with the IO operations. So that is, we need to send a request. We need to pass a request by using IO operations. So I want to use this IO operations, and the user sends the system through the system call wants to access with IO operations. So this is one of the service provided by the operating system. Okay, and in the above, after that system calls, we have user and the system programs. So graphical user interfaces we have, batch processing systems we have, command line systems we have, and these are user interfaces. Already we know that operating system providing some interfaces. So here operating system providing some interfaces, these are the some user interfaces. That means with the hardware and with the software, with the hardware and some user, operating system will have some services, and that services are accessed only through system calls. There is no another way of user. If that user wants to access any kind of service from the operating system, so here this is the contact. the one and only contact between user and the operating system for the services, only for the services, is the system call. So this is the service table, service diagram we have, how the services are provided by the operating system, and how many services are providing, and how that system calls are useful while interacting with the user, and at the same time the services of the operating system. So these are the main services, and many times I told you resource allocations are happening by the operating system, program execution will be there, file systems also there, protection will be provided, error detection will be provided, communication. We have a separate chapter for this communication, that is inter-process communication in the syllabus.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.